everyone. I welcome you all to this session of Science Stories. I would first begin with thanking Professor Ravindra Banyal and the outreach team at IA for organizing this series of talks and allowing us to share our journey with you all. I am Sindhu. I'm a postdoctoral fellow at Aryabhatta Research Institute of Observational Sciences at Nainital. I would first begin with my childhood. So I was born and brought up in Bangalore, and since my family was not very well educated, that is, my parents don't have a much higher education, but their priority was always to give the best of education to us. So I was sent to a English medium school. It's called St. Mark's Public School in Bangalore. It was located very close to my house, and that is the reason they chose this school. And growing up, I was not a very bright student. I mean, I used to be above average in academics, but I was not very active in extracurricular activities except for performing arts. Like, I used to love dancing. Apart from these hobbies, I used to love reading books. And I would like to thank my mom for it, because she was the first one who took me to a library, and the sight of books made me very happy, and it still does today. And from there, I didn't know, it was not during my schooling. At the end of my high school, when people used to share what they wanted to be and things like that, I was very fascinated of being an astronaut. Maybe somewhere reading through about Rakesh Sharma and all such astronauts and cosmonauts of NASA, that I was fascinated that I want to go to the moon. But it was only during my pre-university that was my turning point into shaping my career into astronomy. I was when I joined my first PU, I met my professor in physics. She was she was VT Bhuvaneshwari. She's no more now today, but I still remember her. She was excellent in every way, because she used to teach us physics in class and out of class, and that was amazing, because we used to travel from home to college every day, and on our way, if she's in the bus, she used to always discuss physics, and that used to be like, we're going on the road and there's banking of road, and we used to discuss about it. And then we used to have convex mirrors, and then velocity, acceleration. The driver used to take breaks, and so she used to tell us about it. So that's how I started having some interest in physics. But she took classes only for 1 year. But even during that 1 year, she used to take extra classes for us, for those who were interested. So she used to ask us to come home, and we used to go to her place, and we used to have lunch during weekends. And then she used to take out all her books. She had a library of her own, and she used to share her physics books, and then discuss about everything, like whatever we were learning in the 11th. Then it was in the 12th that I'm one a PhD student from IA. He visited us to our college, and he spoke about astrophysics and making a career in physics. And he said he graduated his MSc from IIT. And then he also shared that he could arrange a visit to IA as well as the observatory in Kavlur. So we were all excited and we wanted to go. And finally, on June 8th, when there was a Venus transit, that was my first visit to IA. So that was when I was seeing the atmosphere, people learning, meeting the scientist for the first time. I was I wanted to be, wow, it's nice being an astronaut or being an astronomer. But later, after a few days, he took us to Vainu Bappa Observatory, and when we saw the observatory, the huge telescopes, it was marvelous, because the only telescope that we had seen was the smallest telescope, that too in some shops, but not the actual telescope where people make observation. And was when they discussed about how it was inaugurated, and how there was a space where they used to actually sit inside the telescope to make observation. Everything was so very interesting. But I think the striking part was late night. I mean, we had the opportunity to stay almost till 9 or 10 at Kavlur, but the night sky was what fascinated me, because I was so excited seeing those stars, because in being in Bangalore you have so much light pollution. We used to always look up into the sky and talk about the constellation and everything, but being in Kavlur and seeing those many stars, it was just amazing. And that day, I think somehow it shaped into me being an astronomer. So from there on, I had decided that whatever I do in my life, it would be to be an astronomer. So then I took up a bachelor's. I was told that taking pure science, because being an astronomer you need to do a PhD, and in order to do a PhD you either have to take an engineering course or a pure science course to be an astronomer. So I took up bachelor's. I went to National College Jayanagar, and there I learned in my first year that we didn't have anything on astronomy for the first 2 years. It was only in the fifth semester that we would have something on astronomy, fifth and sixth semester. So I was a little disappointed. So I started looking for opportunities to learn astronomy, and luckily I found that there was one institute in Bangalore called MP Birla Institute of Fundamental Research, which conducted courses in astronomy. They had this 100-hour astronomy course at that time, and they still do, I think. So that 100-hour course was organized, and I went in. I inquired about it, and I found that scientists from RRI, IIA, and Bangalore University would come and visit, give lectures there. So I was like, yes, this is a very good opportunity for me, and I joined that course. And it was a weekend course, so every Saturday, Sunday was my trip to MP Birla to learn astronomy. It went almost for 3 to 4 months, and we had astronomers coming from IIA, RRI, and Bangalore University giving lectures, and it was really amazing. And during that course itself, we were taken to Gauribidanur, and it was my next trip to Kavlur, and I love being in Kavlur any day. So that was beautiful. But after that, I learned that we had to do an MS, and I used to always look for opportunities where there were workshops. So I used to attend workshops in astronomy, and sometimes go and attend lectures wherever we had. In our national college, there was a science center where they used to organize talks by eminent professors, and then we used to attend those lectures in the evenings. So after that, I learned that I have to do an MSc. So I joined Bangalore University Department of Physics, and I took a specialization in astrophysics. So I learned a lot during that time, but still, it is nothing close to research, what you do in actual research. Learning physics, learning astrophysics is very different from doing research in real time. So during my MSc, we had some excellent professors who were very inspirational in every way, because we had Professor Usha ma'am, Meera ma'am, and Sharpari ma'am, the trio of Bangalore University Department. And learning from them was amazing, because they were so dedicated in teaching us physics. They used to spend, and we used to have extra classes to learn, to try to clear these special exams, entrance exams for PhD. So they were kind of very supportive, and they used to always, after I finished my MSc also, I used to ask for recommendation letter, and they used to always be very happy to provide them. So my step forward to research was not simple, because I had to give many entrance exams, and I couldn't crack any of those exams. As I told you in the earlier thing, that I am still an average student. I still say that I'm an average student. So finally, I used to give exams in IA, I gave in IUCA and various institutes, but I couldn't clear. So in the meanwhile, my father said that you have to keep going, so you have to do something. You can't sit at home just trying to study, preparing for your exams. So I joined a school close by because I did not want to. I wanted to prepare for the exams as well as work. So I joined a school there, and after that, I also took a summer school for students, an outreach program, and astronomy for students, and they loved it. And everywhere I go, I used to talk about astronomy. Everywhere I go, I used to talk about stars. Whether I meet my relatives or friends, people know that I come there, I talk about something on stars. So that's how I was known to be. So finally, I decided that since I didn't have any experience on research and I actually did not know what research was, I finally decided to do an MPhil course in VIT Vellore. So when I joined for this course, I joined Professor C. Anuradha at VIT. She was doing nuclear physics, and I started working on nuclear physics. She gave me some projects and I started doing it. In the first 2 months, she realized that, Sindhu, I think you're more inclined to astronomy. So if you're really interested in astronomy, why don't you do your MPhil in astronomy itself? I said, that's a wonderful idea, but what do I do? I mean, what can I do for it? So she said, you can look for some faculty outside VIT, and if they could collaborate with you, you could do the research with them, and you can as well get the degree in astronomy itself. I was like, it was a pretty good idea. Then I recalled that I had done an MP course in MP Birla, so I called them up and I asked them, can I actually do a project in astronomy in your institute? So there was Professor Sujata from MP Birla. She was happy to take me in, but her only condition was that she wanted to be my guide, actual guide, like registered guide from VIT. We tried contacting and it took some few months, but unfortunately that couldn't happen. So I was disappointed. It was like already I'd spent 2-3 months on it, trying to register her. I was working on it, but I started working on open clusters. So I was like, now what do I do? I have my project. My guide at VIT, she has no experience in astronomy research. So finally, I had actually long back approached Professor T.P. Prabhu at IA for a project. So he told me that there is no offer as such, but whenever there is some project, we would call you. So I called him up and I asked, sir, this is the situation. I want to work on star clusters. So can you guide me for it? So he said, why don't you actually contact Professor Annapurni? She works on star clusters, so you can contact her. So I mailed Professor Annapurni ma'am, and when I sent her a mail, she said, it's good that you're interested, but it'll take some while whether we'll take you in or not. I was like, okay. So I used to keep sending her mails and calling her up, and she used to sometimes get like, wait, have some patience. And I was like, okay. Then it was in December, I remember. Like I joined MPhil around July. So and in December I got this call letter from IA saying that I was selected for an internship at IA and I could do a project on open clusters. I was really excited. And then I packed my bag to go to IA. And when I went to IA, I realized that it was not so simple as I thought. Then I met Professor Annapurni ma'am. She said, we discussed about the project that we can do. She said there was a telescope called UVIT, Ultraviolet Imaging Telescope. And she asked me whether I knew about it. I said, I've never heard about it. And she said, have you heard about blue stragglers? And I was like, I don't know what blue stragglers are. I know stars. And finally she said, okay, then go read about UVIT and we'll discuss about it. So I read about UVIT, about the telescopes, how many telescopes, I mean like the FUV and NUV channel and the UV ultraviolet wavelength. Why do we need UV? Why not have UV observatory on ground? Why do we have to have space-based observatory? So these were the discussion that we happened, and then after discussing, she said I need to make a simulator, like I need to generate count rates for a cluster and see how those values, that is the magnitude versus color, would appear in the UV. So now, since the normal people are very familiar, like in astronomy, you have a HR diagram, which is called Hertzsprung-Russell diagram, which is a plot of temperature versus magnitude, so brightness or else. So it shows how where the brightest stars are the hottest stars that you see there on the top, and there's a main sequence and the subgiant branch and the red giant branch. So it tells you the evolution of a star at certain age. So this plot is very familiar in the optical color magnitude diagram, but till then I think very few studies in the UV had been done, because there are hardly any telescopes in the UV band except for IUE, which was launched in 80s, and after that we have recent launch was the Galax, which had 2 filters in far UV and NUV. So apart from that, UVIT would be the first mission with so many filters, and which is a long-term project. I mean, it's a long-term 5-year mission. So this was interesting. So I started working on it, and I worked on 3 open clusters: M67, NGC 6791, and NGC 188. So when I worked in these 3 clusters, I learned more about them actually. I think I understood better as I started learning about them, reading papers. And then after I finished my project in MPhil, I wrote a thesis on that. And then even both of my guides, Professor C. Anuradha and Annapurni ma'am, both of them suggested that I write a paper on it. So finally I wrote a paper, and it took a very long time to write a paper, because I'm still not actually good in writing papers. It takes a longer time for me than working. So I wrote that paper, we submitted to RAA, and yeah, it got accepted. I was happy because I didn't know what is the importance of papers and research, because all that I knew, I wanted to do research. That was my idea. So, but what is research, what happens in research was not clear to me. So then I wanted to do my PhD in astronomy. So I discussed my thing with Professor Annapurni ma'am. So she said she can guide me for my PhD. So I said, okay, fine. I registered again at VIT for my PhD, and Professor Annapurni ma'am was my guide there. She was also registered as a guide at my university there. So I started working for my PhD, and it was good because it was my beginning of the PhD, and I was learning little by little, and I think I'm a little slower in learning things. But yes, I started learning it as time went by. I started grasping things much better, and then I think I attended a workshop at IUCA, and that was my first workshop. And I met amazing professors from abroad. I met James Binney. I think most of who are working in astronomy might know him. Meeting such professors, they are so humble. They just come to you and they talk to you, discuss about astronomy. It was wonderful for me to get that experience. And they were, they used to be very simple, natural. Okay, what is your idea? What do you think? And that was like, okay, wow, being such amazing professors and being such eminent professors in their career, they are so down to earth, and that amazed me actually. My first actually presentation was I did my first presentation in NCRA. It was the ASI workshop. I presented a poster. So then I had to prepare a poster. It was a new thing. I mean, everything was new to me. So I started. There were many people coming discussing about what I had done till then. So this went on actually. So in my PhD, I worked on blue straggler stars. So in 2016, once the UVIT was launched, the AstroSat, which is the satellite, that was launched in 2015. So I started actually working on UVIT. Thinking about this, I remember one incident. When I started my MPhil project, there was one student at IA. He asked me what are you working on? So I said I'm working on UVIT. I'm doing simulation. He said, yeah, I think there are so many people who have worked on UVIT. I don't know because I think UVIT was planned for launch since a very long time. But finally, I was happy that when I started my career started my PhD, UVIT was actually launched, and finally I could work on the data what was planned for so many years. So I got my first paper from UVIT in 2016, and that was the first science paper from UVIT as well. So I was very happy that I could contribute in some way, in this huge telescope. And the first light was also for my data, and that's a rare opportunity that people get. So I could work on it, and I worked on blue stragglers. So we discovered a hot companion to a blue straggler in NGC 188. That was my first work, I could say, from UVIT. So what is a blue straggler? When we think about what blue stragglers are, they are they appear above the main sequence, and most of the stars at that location would have evolved off because they are more massive and they have evolved through age. So, but the stars are still lying there. So we try to question why are they there, because single stellar evolution should have proved that it should have moved out onto the subgiant and red giant branch, but that's not happening to this stars. So what kind of stars are these? Are they younger stars, or have they acquired mass from another giant stars or something like that? And how are they so massive? I mean, the massive stars have evolved and this star is still lying up there. So we try to question them, and we try to find out why these stars are there on the main sequence. And for this star in NGC 188, we understood that this star actually is formed from acquiring mass from a post-AGB or a horizontal branch star. And we see this companion. So we know that this hot companion is actually given some mass to this star, which was previously lying on the main sequence, and now it has moved up above the main sequence. So that is why maybe the reason that star is located in that region. So now we actually try to study many such stars which are exotic stars in the sense, because these stars are not, they don't follow the normal trend what we know about evolution of stars. So they defy those laws. So we try to understand why that is happening. So some answers are like there may be binary stars acquiring mass from a companion, but important thing is that you need to detect that companion as well. So like in M67, we have detected some blue stragglers with white dwarf companions. So these white dwarf companions are actually, they are low mass white dwarf companions, and the presence of these low mass companions suggests there must be a mass transfer history, because the possibility of low mass white dwarfs forming within a Hubble time is not possible for single stellar. I mean, you can have helium white dwarf, but they would take a much longer time than the Hubble time that is there. So these must have formed through mass transfer. So that is the answers that we try to give to these objects. And from there, I think that summarizes the work that I've done. And also talking about work, it's very exciting that in research you get a lot of opportunities to present your work to different people, different scientists all over the world and India. And attending conference is the best part of it, because you get to travel to different places, and you get to know the place as well as the people and the scientists, how they work and what kind of work atmosphere they have. So one such opportunity, I got one such opportunity when I went to Italy in 2019. So there was a conference at Bologna, and it was by IAU. So I could present my poster there. And during that meeting, it was very different, because during the meeting, I attended the meeting, and after that I also got a chance to go to a university in Padova and meet some professors there and talk to them. And the atmosphere is very different. They have a very they have a very friendly atmosphere, and the professors and students are all like, they go have a cup of coffee every day and have chill out. But the work part is also very, they do it on timely basis. They have very strict, and they share and collaborate, and they work in teams. And it's like every work that is done there is like everyone does some bits of parts of the work, and it's made into a paper. And that's very different from what happens in India. It is good, but the thing is that I think more collaborations can happen, where they actually work in teams, where your paper is not just one person's, but it is a part of many, not just your guide or co-guide or your co-students, but it should move out of that space. It should be from every part. Everybody can discuss things. I think in that sense, I'm very lucky to have a group, which we have a group weekly meeting every time. We discuss our works, and we try to understand things of what everyone is doing, and then we give comments and suggestions and take suggestions and learn more. So that is a very different experience that you can have, and you can learn more in that during group meetings. So I think I would end my talk by saying that be passionate about your work, and never give up on your dreams. It may come true one day. Thank you.